Welcome back to NTV Tonight. Now, Competition Authority of Kenya, CAK Director-General David Kemei says cartels and unscrupulous business people who collude to manufacture crises and exploit consumers remain the biggest challenge to ensure a level playing field for businesses and protecting consumers. The DG spoke to our NTV's Michelle Ngele Odhiambo.
Every day, millions of Kenyans buy food, fuel their cars, pay school fees, even order goods online, take insurance, even borrow money and shop in supermarkets. But what happens when companies secretly agree to raise their prices, or when a company advertises one thing but delivers something completely different? Who protects the ordinary consumer? Behind the scenes is an institution and many Kenyans have heard of, but few truly understand, the Competition Authority of Kenya. It is the country's competition watchdog tasked with keeping markets competitive, protecting consumers, and ensuring that businesses play by the rules. Tonight, we go inside the work of the authority, how it investigates anti-competitive conduct, how it protects consumers, and how it prepares for a rapidly changing digital economy. Joining us tonight is Director-General of the Competition Authority of Kenya, Mr. David Kemei. Director-General, good evening and welcome to NTV. Many Kenyans have heard of the Competition Authority of Kenya, but few understand what it actually does and how its work affects their daily lives. So very briefly, what does the Competition Authority of Kenya do?
Competition Authority of Kenya, in short CAK, is a regulator that ensures that we have competitive markets and that we protect consumers in Kenya. It was established way back in 2010 and began operations in 2011. Ours is to ensure that markets are efficient and competitive and that consumers actually get what they buy from the shops or supermarkets or from even banks when they get services from there.
Who would you say benefits most from the work that you do?
50 million Kenyans that we have. That's the work that we do. That's our mandate.
All right.
Yes.
And of course, the Competition Authority isn't just about businesses. It largely influences the prices that we pay for different commodities, the quality of goods and services that Kenyans pay for as well, and the choices available to consumers. So why should competition matter to the ordinary Kenyan?
Yes, it matters because one of our functions is to ensure that consumers have choices. Number two is to ensure that also consumers get better prices and better quality goods when they go to the shops. Also, we look at when companies are buying or acquiring each other, we look ahead and see whether there would be lessening of competition because of the merger, or whether there are any public interest issues. We need to look at in advance before that happens. So we are protecting Kenyans in advance as companies merge and acquire each other in Kenya.
What happens when businesses stop competing fairly?
The work of Competition Authority is to ensure that the huge player doesn't abuse its dominance, its power, against the smaller companies.
All right.
What we call, in our technical terms, abuse of buyer power. Like now, changing contractual terms unilaterally, imposing unfair terms to the smaller companies.
How do cartels affect the work of the Competition Authority?
Kenya, we are actually very, very concerned as Competition Authority of Kenya about cartels. This is where businessmen or businesses come together to secretly fix the prices or fix the quantity to be supplied or fix the quality that will be supplied by exchanging commercially sensitive information that helps them to exploit the consumers in terms of higher prices, in terms of lower qualities, and that they come together. And that is why we have a competition law that prohibits fixing of prices.
Without discussing perhaps ongoing cases. Can you share an example of an investigation that illustrates the kind of issues the authority deals with when it comes to, cartel business, fixing prices, quality of goods, for example? And one example I can give you that the media houses have reported on is the quality of sugar, for example.
We take the example of the steel industry, where they were curtailing the supply of imports by sitting together and actually setting prices that were actually higher than normal in the industry. So we investigated those companies, and we were able to find 14 of them having worked in a cartel-like manner to set the prices, to curtail the quantities and all that of the steel. And we find those companies, of course, 7 of them out of the 14 accepted to work with the authority and pay the penalties. 8, the 7 remaining actually decided to go before the competition tribunal, which is actually their right. The tribunal, fortunately, found that the authority did the right thing in raiding them through the dawn raids and penalizing them for actually violating the act.
What safeguards are in place so that the competition authority does not abuse that power? Because the dawn raid, of course, then is one of the most invisible investigative tools, right? Or maybe the visible investigative tool for the CAK.
Yes.
But what safeguards exist?
The provisions of the act actually are stringent, and we ensure that we follow what we have in our rules, what we have in the Criminal Procedure Act. We also follow the fact that we have a Data Protection Act. We also have the issue of a Fair Administrative Act, that we must make sure that we actually work within the law. We do not work outside the law. Mm-hmm. Because what we do will actually be a subject of contestation. Because as I mentioned to you, there are those who have gone to competition tribunal, there are those who are going to the court. So we make sure that we are actually operating within the provisions of the law.
Right. I mean, there must be many questions before we move on, because Kenya currently has concerns that independent institutions, perhaps like the CAK, may be being used or are vulnerable to being used by those in power. How do you convince Kenyans or assure Kenyans that that is not the case?
Our law is respected. The executive doesn't actually get involved in our work. Mm-hmm. The executive confines itself in the policy issues and issues to do with the direction that the policy of the government dictates, and then we work within those parameters, and we actually execute our mandate that is given by the Act.
Many Kenyan consumers, like I mentioned, may know the competition authority, but don't realize that they even have legal protections or that they can report unfair business practices to CAK. Mm. So my question perhaps would be, what kind of consumer complaints does this CAK handle, especially in a fast-changing technological world?
Yes.
Because many times we order things online, and you've always seen the memes of what you order vis-a-vis what you receive, yes, right? Or what you get.
Yes.
What consumer complaints does CAK handle, and what is the landscape now with online businesses and e-commerce?
Let me say, to the advantage of the consumers, that we have a fully dedicated Consumer Protection Department, and we receive all complaints related to services, goods and works that are falling short in terms of the expectations of the consumer, having been given a promise before buying and actually discovering that what they bought is not what they. Our first call is, we ask the consumers to first of all get in touch with the supplier first and try to sort out that issue before coming to us. The issue is that we would like the suppliers to treat their customers fairly, to get also the feedback of the kind of goods they are offering and services, so that as they continue to serve their customers, they can improve. If the consumers are not actually satisfied, with the response from the supplier, they can then now come to us.
And how do they come to you? How do they lodge that complaint? From Mombasa, from Samburu?
We have our portal. That's the first place they can go to, our website and our portal, and file the complaints.
What is that? What's the, do you know the website?
That is www.cak.go.ke. That's where they get the first instance. The second one is they send an email to us, and that is info@cak.co.ke.
Many times you send emails to government institutions when they do not respond. What is your response rate?
The third one is they can actually call. And then the fourth one is that they can write to us.
What is your response rate?
Our response rate, according to our customer charter, is that we respond immediately.
How does CAK determine its penalties?
The determination of penalties, first of all, is that the client must have violated some provisions of the Act, right? So let's talk about mergers. Someone will have consummated a merger without notifying us. So that one is a violation of the Act. So we impose a penalty. Or we do a downread and we find that some companies have been colluding in a cartel manner. They have violated an act. We penalize. Or we find that, like for some banks, we found them, they are changing the contractual terms with the people they give the loans, you know, and we find that they have not actually acted according to what the Act requires.
Right.
So once we find a violation of the Act, now our Act allows us to charge between 0% and 10% of the previous year turnover. Turnover here means total sales for the previous year. That is for a violation only. All right? Again, the Act gives us to consider some aggravating factors of that violation or some mitigating factors of that violation. Some of the mitigating factors, for instance, is that the offender is cooperating with us and is willing to settle the matter. That's one of the mitigating factors, meaning that the offender sometimes can be remorseful and is willing to go to an extent to even change their procedures to make sure that that violation stops. You know, such issues. Those penalties are used now to advance the execution of the mandates for the authority. It doesn't go to the government. It remains with the authority.
All right.
Yes.
Is that where the authority maintains its independence? By essentially, does that count as on-source revenue for the authority?
It becomes an on-source revenue, but it is not the key. Our funding comes from the government.
Yeah, so the authority wants to penalize people because they need operational funds.
That's why I was saying our key is not to penalize.
Right.
Yeah, because we get independent funding from the government to execute our mandate.
Okay.
Yeah.
Before we wind up, this year, the competition framework in Kenya underwent the OECD review, which highlighted both progress and opportunities for improvement. What did that review mean for the CAK, and what improvements did it recommend that perhaps are even already underway?
Yes, that review is very critical, and it is a fair review agencies, by the way, accept to be subjected to a peer review.
Right.
We took that step because we wanted to know the milestones that we have achieved to be assessed independently by a third party. Number two, we wanted also to know the areas that we needed to improve on.
Right.
Number three, we wanted to know some of the strategic areas that we need to look into. One of the areas that came out very clearly and which we had begun our journey on is that we needed to move and get legal boost to regulate digital markets, which are becoming very prevalent. And we needed to be there so that we protect consumers in that space, in that digital space.
I want to give you 5 quick-fire questions that you will answer very fast in the interest of informing our viewers.
Yes.
What do you think is the biggest misconception about the CAK?
The biggest is that CAK is not well known And we'll be putting a lot of resources in advocacy to ensure that consumers know we exist for their benefit.
What sector are you watching most closely?
That one I will not mention because it is more strategic and it will send them.
We'll give them a clue before the dawn rings. What's the biggest mistake?
But what I want to say is that what guides us, which sectors we focus on, are those sectors we know will get the greatest impact for the consumers.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the consumer. What's the biggest mistake they make?
It's just the fact that they don't take time to look at the fine print of the issues, especially when they're contracting. They don't take their time to really see the fine print. And we try to protect by making sure that businesses do not hide information in that fine print, because that's where we found their issues.
And finally, because the government is promoting small businesses, what is the one thing every SME should know?
Every SME should know that it has a friend in CAK, so that we ensure that they have good terms with the bigger players.
Many thanks. Mr. David Kemei, the Director-General of the Competition Authority of Kenya. Thank you for speaking to NTV.
Thank you, Michelle. We appreciate what NTV does to inform our consumers what we do for them.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.